10 people from 10 different countries, and you all speak the same language. But somehow you're not speaking the same language. Sounds confusing, right? That's where we currently find ourselves in this globalized world. Thanks to technology, we are more connected than ever, but we are still struggling to understand one another. You know, growing up in Nigeria, a country rich with diverse culture and ethnic groups, and with amazing people, and more languages that I can count, and having the privilege due to the nature of my job to have worked with individuals from around the globe, I've come to realize one thing, that communication is more than words. It's culture, context, and connection. This evening, I'll be sharing with you how cross-cultural communication is a bridge to a better and united world. But before I go on to tell you more, I would like to tell you a very funny story that changed my perspective. I got involved into a global team comprising of individuals from Japan, the UK, Canada, Brazil, and we were working on a global marketing campaign. I'm a very confident guy. So during one of our brainstorming sessions, I thought I'd gotten this Eruka moment like Archimedes did with the Archimedes principle. And I said to the team, we have to use this. This is the idea we've been looking for. And it actually didn't go well with my Japanese colleague. And during our brainstorming session, he walked up to me and he said, Aliyu, I love the fact that you always want to bring value to this team. But I needed to tell you this. In Japan, we value harmony and consensus. And you know what you tried to do the other day was more like you imposing it on us. Mind you, I was just trying to be very confident. But that small moment taught me a big lesson. That our assumption about communication doesn't always travel well across borders. Every culture has its own language, whether spoken or unspoken. And not until when you and I take the time to learn and understand it, we risk building walls instead of bridges. So why do we struggle? Or why cross-cultural communication? The truth is, cultural misunderstanding often lead to barriers. Barriers to global peace, progress, and collaboration. In a research carried out by Harvard Business Review 2023, it showed that 70% of businesses, international ventures, actually fail due to cultural clashes. And this is not just common to businesses alone. Even in the diplomatic scene, according to the Journal of International Business Review and also the Conflict Review, it actually shows that in negotiation, misunderstanding in negotiation actually increase conflict by 30%. Take for instance, in Nigeria, especially in Africa, when Prof was here and maybe a young student just walk up to Prof and he or she does a thumbs up to him, definitely it will be seen as the young student being disrespectful. In the Middle East, by just showing the sole of your feet is actually an offense and it's seen as you being disrespectful. In Asia, a direct eye contact to doctor would be seen as you being trying to be confrontational. Unlike in the West, a direct contact simply means you are confident and you are honest. So why do we struggle with this? The answer lies in 3 key barriers. Number 1, stereotype. For most of us here, we are actually guilty of this. We tend to place labels on people's culture instead of understanding individuals based on who they truly are. Number 2 is that cultural bias. Sometimes we judge other people's culture based on our own standards instead of taking time to understand them at their own terms. This is more like using the map of Ilorin to navigate Offa. It doesn't just work. And lastly, lack of empathy. I often tell people that communication is more than words. It's also about speaking. And speaking requires empathy, which is a skill you and I most times are often too busy to practice. Look around you. Take a deep breath. Look at what is happening around the globe. Killing, starvation, instability, destruction, wars. Look at the tension in the South China Sea, Israel and Palestine, the Turkish-Kurdish war. Even within our local parlance, we have the farmer-herdsmen war or clashes. For Israel and Palestine, which is one of the wars I particularly put more interest in, I often believe that it's beyond the quest for politics, resources, or power. It has to do with cultural identities, history, narratives, which are often misunderstood by both sides. Yes, cross-cultural communication won't solve all these problems overnight, but can be a starting point. Imagine if leaders of both sides take their time to understand each other's cultural history and narratives, not because they want to agree, but just to listen. Imagine they approach the negotiation table from the angle of cultural intelligence, empathy, and the willingness to listen to the humanity in the other side. Thanks, there's been a great move with the exchange of hostages. But I asked the question, what will happen in the next century? Would we continue with this exchange of hostages? So how do we foster cross-cultural communication in our everyday lives? I'll give you four. The first thing is we need to cultivate cultural intelligence. We need to start learning other people's culture. It's quite a difficult task for students, but it's a must that we do, because according to a research by SHRM, that is Society for Human Resources and Management, it showed that individuals with high cultural intelligence, CQ, usually perform well in multicultural settings. Thanks, I love the way each student came up here and everything. It shows that there is multicultural development within the community. Number two is that we need to practice active listening. And not just hearing, listening, paying attention to body language, context. We need to pay attention to tonality. There's a difference between I don't want it and I don't want it. We need to pay attention to that. Number three is that we need to become humble. In Buddhism, they call it the beginner's mindset. We need to approach every conversation from the angle of openness. I usually tell people about the 3 A's of active listening, which are, number one, attention. You need to give attention to that individual talking to you. Number two is acknowledgement. Acknowledgement could be just body language. You need to let the person know that I feel you, I understand you. And lastly, adaptation. Watch what the person has said, listen to it, and make moves. And lastly is training and development. For organizations, according to SHM again in 2023, organizations who have taken time to train their staff in multicultural settings and adaptability usually increase productivity and retention by 28%. So for organizations, it is a must that you train your staff in terms of being culturally sensitive and as well intelligent. I have always envisioned a world where leaders around the globe will sit across tables, not as students or representatives of their nations, but as individuals that have come to learn from each other's culture. A world where young people like you and I will celebrate diversity and take it as strength. A world where businesses wouldn't just be about expansion, but about creating partnerships that are deeply rooted in mutual trust, respect, and connection. It's not a far-off dream. The future is possible, but it begins with a choice. A choice for you and I to start communicating differently, to start learning different, and to listen. So before I leave the stage now, I want to challenge everyone here that when they should meet someone from a different culture, that you pause, don't assume, ask questions. Because the bridge we build today will definitely determine the world we live tomorrow. Thank you.